right, Frederick Noad, First Book for the Guitar, Part 1, Exercise 9. And this is doing the notes on the first 3 strings with rest strokes, including the A finger occasionally. And I'm going to do your part slow and then fast, and then the accompaniment part slow and fast. And it's an 8th note rhythm, so it's but we're going to do it slow 8th notes at first, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, go. Faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, now the teacher's part. Play along with me. I'm going to have a completely different rhythm than you. I've got half notes, starting out where you've got 8th notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 3 and 4, 1. Two and 3, 4. Okay, a little faster. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3, 4. And 2 and 3, 4. Okay, that was kind of fast, all right, but we're doing 8th notes. Now, In this melody, the eighth note is the dominant rhythm. It's the dominant pulse. I would say pulse. And even though it's technically 4 beats in a measure, you almost want to feel that eighth note underlying, like hear a drummer, a little drummer in your head, just hitting eighth notes all the time. Because you're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 3 and 4 and. You want to hear the counts that you're not playing. And when you get to the end of the second measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you want to hear those pulses, 3 and 4 and feel generally an eighth note pulse. In the next melody, it'll mainly be a quarter note pulse. Even though there are eighth notes in that melody, there's only 2 eighth notes here and then 2 eighth notes later on, and that's it. So you wouldn't want to count something like that, 1 and 2 and all the way through. This one you would, though. You want to count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. If you know the proportions of quarter notes to eighth notes, you could just count that first measure like 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1, 2. But if you're not sure, if you're just beginning to count eighth notes, it's usually safer to count every count. Like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Okay? Now, a big problem with this one that I've noticed, and it may not be, if you're following this video carefully, you should be able to not have this problem. A lot of people will play and then everything's right, and then suddenly they're trying to play almost like twice as fast when they get to the next line on that. And it almost sounds like that melody that as kids we always sang in the school bus, B-I-N-G-O, B-I-N-G-O. You know, that Bingo was his name, oh. If you think about that, that'll give you that rhythm, G-O-B-I-N-G-O. So be careful when you get to that second line not to rush. You know, a quarter note's still a quarter note, and an eighth note is still an eighth note. And if you're generally doing it slow, you don't want to just suddenly speed up on one measure. So watch out for that. Now when you get to that third measure, that second line, you're going to start using the A finger, and it's a pattern. A, M, I, M, I, A, M, I, M, I. But then it doesn't work for this next measure, and we do M, I, M, I, M. But for those 2 measures, it's A, M, I, M, I, B, I, N, G, O, right? Okay, so so it is a little bit confusing, and then later on, the second to the last measure, you have that same exact measure as the first measure of the second line, and it's A, M, I, M, I, and then M, I, M, I to end it. Here we're using the A finger, but more in a set pattern. And what I was going to say too, when you get to the second line, that's the trickiest spot. Not only do a lot of students just rush it, and they don't have the notes down anyway, so they're trying to do it faster than they're ready to do it. But if you look at those those two measures of the second line, measure 1 and 2, where you're doing that pattern A, M, I, M, I. The first of those two measures is going to feel a lot different in the way the fingers go over the strings. Because in this first one, you're only playing two different strings. In the next measure, you're playing three different strings in the first three notes. First string, second string, third string. So it's like going A, M, I, A, M, I. It might be good to practice that. A on the first string, M on the second string, I on the third string. And get used to that. But what happens is that you may be thinking or wanting it to be like the first of the two measures, which is really just first and the second strings. And then suddenly we're going across three strings, and it's I, M, I. A lot of people stumble on that, and then I think it's kind of a subconscious thing, but I think a lot of people want to go A, I. And I think the reason is because we're fingering the index, I, the first finger of the left hand, so the first finger of the right hand wants to match that, and you'll go A, I, when it really should be A, M, I. Sorry, I messed it. A, M, I. Okay? But I see this like 2 out of 3 students. They'll get to that measure. They'll do A, M, I, M, I, and then they'll do A, I, you know? And it should be A, M, I. So be forewarned. Don't fall into the traps that other people fall into, okay? And remember, I know your mistakes before you even make them, because I've taught this book for almost 40 years, probably 35 years at least, you know. So I know the mistakes that often people, you know, fall into, and I tend to ring a bell every time a person does the same. No, I don't do that. But and I'm not being derogatory. I'm just saying that I know the mistakes, the pits that people fall into, and sometimes they're just not even aware. You know, they think they're doing it right. You know, and it's A, M, I. So if you just play those first 3 notes, and that's the fourth measure of the melody, or the second measure of the second line, okay? And that's about it. Now, there might be other places that are sticky points for you, and you just have to learn to get both hands coordinated and make sure you're doing the right alternation. Here, you understand alternation is becoming much more important for the music to flow better. And we don't want to just be random and like one day we'll do A, I, M, I, M, and the other day we'll go A, M, I, M, I, you know. You don't want to do it 2 or 3 different ways. You want to practice something one way and make it a good way so you don't have to unlearn it later and change it. So have fun with this one. This is number 9. Again, John Hedger Guitar Studio. Subscribe and like my page on Facebook. Thank you.